Hi, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for joining us today. My name is Alessia, and I'm a senior recruitment consultant here at the One Group, working for our human resources division. And I'm joined by Liz Redway today. So, Liz is an experienced HR consultant, coach, and trainer, and she's very well known for her practical, no nonsense approach to helping different businesses to navigate tricky people issues. So, Redway HR is the company that is being led by Liz, and they've become a trusted partner for organizations that are looking to build high performing, engaged workforces. And, her company is committed to ethical, people focused, yet commercial business practices. Liz is also a sought after speaker, sharing her expertise on everything from organizational resilience to workplace sexual harassment to leadership development. And today she's joining us to discuss a topic which also is quite a hot topic. And I'm sure a lot of organizations are thinking about it and questioning whether they've got enough, they're offering enough, or whether there are things to improve. So, we're going to be talking about employer value proposition, EVP, and sharing some insights. We will touch areas such as attracting candidates. Engaging either within the organization or outside, and retaining staff as well. So, just to mention that this is a pre-recorded session, and myself and Liz will be watching it live. In case if anyone has any questions or any comments, you can either pop them in the comment box, or you could also DM us individually, and we'll be happy to get back to you or on anything you might have comments or questions about. So, let's then start with some questions about you, Liz. And yeah, really intrigued myself, and I guess the audience as well, just to know a little bit more about you, your career journey, and what actually led you to where you are today.
Sure. Thank you, by the way, for that lovely introduction. So potted career history then. My mum, I was speaking to my mum over the weekend about the fact that we were doing this, and she said to me, I always thought you had a plan. I had no plan. I was lucky enough to start my career in the civil service, who paid for me to do my master's in human resource management. Amazing.
Yeah.
And after I'd graduated, I moved into retail. So I spent some time in Borders. I don't know if you remember them, books and music retailers. And then Dixon's Group.
Yeah.
But actually, when I got to Dixon's Group, I felt like I was just a tiny, tiny person in this massive organisation. So it wasn't for me. And they had a big restructure. So I took that opportunity to actually relocate to New Zealand. I had a young child at the time. My husband's family were in New Zealand, and actually he just lost his dad. So his mum was by herself and actually had just been diagnosed with Parkinson's. So we felt we needed to be there really to support.
Good time to go there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And whilst I was there, secured an amazing job at the National Institute of Water and Atmosphere. I should say, by the way, these are all HRE jobs.
Right.
But that was so super interesting. Can I be a dork for a moment?
Yes.
Can I just tell you about
Absolutely. It sounds like, just the name sounds like wow.
Yeah, totally. Well, here's the most interesting fact I learned there.
Yeah.
That fish have ear bones, right? And if you slice through a fish's ear bone, cross section, just like you would a tree, they've got rings to tell you how old they are. Who knew?
Wow. Wow. Amazing.
But that was amazing. I travelled around a lot, but then ultimately came back to the UK when I had two small children because I miss my family. And that's when I started dipping my toe in the water to becoming freelance just by myself, and then had some success, and then decided to grow the team to where we are today. We're a team of 10. and doing reasonably well. Thank you.
Well, that's the most important thing, isn't it? And obviously, really, really interesting to learn a little bit more, about your journey. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of it just then results in where you are and what you do. Um, and obviously, like you've said now with the Redway HR, doing really well. But were there any like sort of moments or challenges that significantly influenced your path or like your growth?
For sure. So that opportunity to study
Yeah.
for my master's in human resource management, amazing.
Mm.
So grateful for that. It was hard work holding down a full-time job whilst studying, but that opened up so many doors to me, I think. I guess kids was the other one. That
Yeah,
just totally shifts your priorities, doesn't it? So once
it
I'd
does.
had Tom and Bex, I really wanted to work closer to home, hence moving from Borders to Dixon's Group, which was such a shorter journey. So you know if you're going to get that phone call, someone's not well, you
Oh,
can be there
absolutely. Yeah,
to
I'm with
collect
you
their
there.
support. Mm.
Yeah, it's really
Um,
important, isn't it?
and
You
the other
still
thing,
want to like give the most at work, but then obviously also be there if
exactly,
needed, isn't it,
it's
for the
that
family?
balance. It's being able to balance, and that's so important. And I guess the other one, and I'm sure this will resonate with lots of people, is at one point I had the boss from hell. Can I say
Uh,
that? Whilst we're talking?
oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. So
I
I
think,
mean,
yeah,
I've been so lucky working for some really amazing people. So it really stood out. And working for that type of person really knocks your confidence. And it
yeah,
took me a little while after I obviously left. It took me a little while to recover that confidence. And I think for many people, if they've worked in a similar environment, that might resonate. But that made me think very clearly about what I wanted from an employer and from my career, and obviously
moving on.
made the right
Yeah,
decisions going forward
yeah.
for myself.
I guess taught you as well because now you are in the, I guess, boss's shoes, isn't it? So
Indeed.
what to do and what not to
A-
do,
Absolutely.
what
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
think
It's very
about.
clear how I don't
Yeah,
want to treat people.
yeah. It's I always say our career is a learning curve, whether it's positive things or negative things, we learn and then we take it on board and then, use that experience in the future. So, what would you say currently in your job? What do you love the most about it?
It's got to be the variety, I
Mm.
think. So, working with such a range of different organizations, from someone taking on their very first employee, which is so daunting, having
Ah,
been there myself, I know, but also much larger heritage organizations. The variety there is brilliant. So, different clients, different organizations, and actually, I wear lots of hats, right? Because I am the boss. I also wear the
yeah.
bookkeeper hat and the marketing hat and all of those kind of things. So I just love the variety. It keeps me interested.
Interested going, and then I think even for your own personal development or professional development as well, you're learning new things, so you are not standing still. There's always
Never.
something you can learn, isn't it, which is
Yeah,
also an important thing to
definitely.
for someone who wants to enjoy their job and what they do, which is good. So I guess we've touched quite a few things there, topics, comments that I think are making or like giving importance to employer value proposition, your experience as an employee or as an employer currently. So I guess why don't we just go into a little bit more detail on that side and just discuss it in more detail, as I said. So employer value proposition, for those EVP, we also can call it EVP. So for those who are maybe a little bit unfamiliar with that, how would you define in simple terms the EVP?
Sure. So put simply, this is the range of offerings that an employer would provide to their team in return for the team's contributions.
Hmm.
So quite often people think about it as salary and maybe some benefits, but it's broader than that. So it includes everything from work-life balance to ways of working to company culture, and as you rightly said a moment ago, career development opportunities as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So, I guess we could discuss maybe all those things in a little bit more detail, or just how employers can improve the offering, or see whether this is something they need to look into. Why do you think EVP is more important than ever in today's job market? And do you think it's important more than ever in today's job market?
Yeah, I really do. And you'll know this as a recruiter, that the current recruitment market is really challenging. And
Absolutely.
there's lots of things going on that influence that. So if an employer isn't sort of staying current in terms of external market trends, so they're competitive, they're
Yeah.
less likely to get the great candidates that we're looking for. Yeah, so things like Brexit's happened, things like AI's happened, things like the pandemic's happened, and ways of working have changed.
Yeah.
If employers aren't considering all those things in their offer to their potential employees and current employees,
Yeah.
then really are they missing a trick.
Might be losing out on really those skilled employees, because as from recruiters perspective, it is the skilled employees that
Absolutely.
are I mean, it's not that easy to get those employees on board, and when they are on the market, you just want to attract them and retain them. And
Exactly.
we are now in the market where we are finding a really experienced and skilled employee who is out there looking for work. They have a few offers on the on the table, and they're deciding, and that's the moment where they're starting to question, I really, or like say, I really like the job, or all three of them, let's say, but what what's next? What is the company offering me? Where can I see myself in the coming years? Can I see myself staying there long term? And I think that's where EVP comes in, and organizations need to make sure that they are offering as much as they can, but also they're showing it, so employees can, or like future employees, people can easily see that on their websites, on their posts, in the info field, when they're doing the research, and it's not just offering, but also like letting people know that this is what we do, this is what you get when you come and join us. So I think that's an important thing as well, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Quite often people think about EVP and they think about attracting people, but you're so right to bring in retention, because what you're offering to people has got to keep them with you as well. Whilst again, if you can't stand still, if the market's changing and maybe, I don't know, some new benefits have been brought in or different ways of working, and you're not keeping up with that, you're not going to hang on to those excellent employees that you've invested time and money attracting, training, getting the knowledge into their heads and the skills, to their fingertips.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like we've just mentioned, I think the well-defined EVP contributes so much to attracting and retaining top talent, isn't it? So how do you get there? What would you say are the key elements that make up a strong EVP?
So let's start with probably the first thing that most people think of, which is pay and benefits, right? And when most people are reading job adverts, they look at the salary first. But actually, that's probably a point in itself. I'm going to try not to go down a rabbit hole, but there are still employers who aren't putting salary ranges in their job adverts.
Yes. How do you feel about it yourself?
Well, I can tell
Like,
you
what
that
do
it's
you
not an
see?
effective way of attracting the right candidate.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. And I always ask myself, why? Why are you just not, if you don't want to give the exact amount, just give a range, but that actually helps to understand for the person who is applying whether this is something, they want to apply for, and then maybe take it from there, or they just definitely say no. That would help the employers as well, because they would then not get maybe unexperienced people applying for the job, because the salary is not indicated there. But yeah, it's just something, it's definitely a point that's
For
that's worth
sure.
mentioning, and
And
I think
I guess
definitely
I
look
would
at.
say, from your perspective, it probably wastes a lot of time, because you might have lots of people applying who are, so far away from what the employer is looking for. But the other thing is it really impacts on their diversity. So if you're looking to decrease a gender gap or bring in more women potentially at more senior roles, it's true to say that fewer women will apply for roles where there is no salary advertised. So you're shooting yourself in the foot, in my opinion, as an employer. So no, I get grumpy about it when there's no salary.
I'm with you on that. But also saving, I mean, if they're advertising directly, not through an agency, let's say, saving themselves time as well, because you get so many irrelevant applicants, and then you might get that candidate who looks amazing, who applied, and then you give them a call and say, oh, you know, we would like to discuss it further. Are you available for an interview? And they're like, well, I haven't seen the salary. What is it? And it's just way out of their range.
Exactly.
And then it's just a wasted time for the employer as well, because they've spent time reviewing their CV, giving them a call, you know, thinking of all these things ahead when the salary is not right.
Exactly. So there we go. Pay and benefits, getting that right, putting that out there. That's the base level, right?
The base, I would say the base, but there's so many other things which, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay. So, I mean, we touched on career development. So career growth and professional development, huge. And over again, we see things like that being maybe not the top reason that people move jobs, but certainly second or third down the line. So really important if you can train someone up, give them progression opportunities, even give them mentoring or developing different skill sets, hugely powerful as part of your EVP. What else? The working environment, the culture. Is it supportive? Is it inclusive? Work-life balance and well-being. In fact, work-life balance. When we're now in a phase where working from home, at least part of the time, is almost an expectation, whereas obviously 5 years ago, it was possibly the exception. So that's definitely something that's changed. But if you can allow people to work in a hybrid manner, that's hugely powerful at the moment. You're limiting yourself if you can't make that happen. Obviously, for some roles, that's not going to be appropriate. Frontline workers, retail, for example, it's not going to happen. But if you can, really powerful.
Definitely offer it. Absolutely. Because that's the expectation now, like you've said. We even had a conversation with my colleagues this morning that, we're actively looking for candidates, and so many candidates are just asking for that flexibility. And I think even if you offer them one day working from home opportunity, it just gives them like sort of sense of security that if they need to, they will be able to do it. Some of them might not even use it and come into the office, because a lot of people prefer working in the office. But if you have that flexibility, that just makes you feel a little bit more like, secure in terms of, well, if I needed to, I can work from home, isn't it?
Exactly that. And the last thing I'll say that people or should be part of your EVP is something here about purpose and impact. So making people feel part of something that has meaning, whether it's social responsibility, but it's the ability for the employees to really buy into something important and to see how they are making an impact on that.
On either the society or the local community or as an organization to the world as well, like that's definitely
if they can, or even if it's feeding, selling more baked beans because people are hungry. There's purpose in that, providing great quality low cost bread.
It's the way you put it, isn't it? And then communicate it. So when we are talking about the communication, so it's all great to understand what the organization needs to offer and maybe work on, identifying and then setting up the EVP. But what do you think, or from your experience as well, what would be the common mistakes that organizations can make in trying to build or communicate the EVP?
So what I see time and time again, first of all, is a sort of a lack of authenticity. So they're over-promising and under-delivering, right? It's a bit like greenwashing for the environment. I don't know what the equivalent of EVP washing might be, but if you can't deliver what it is you're setting out, then you're going to be losing people just as fast as you are bringing them in. So that's the first. And then there's a one-size-fits-all approach. And I must be honest, I've almost been guilty of this myself at my company. I make the assumption that everybody values the same thing that I do, but I don't. I suggested pension contributions for our team, for example, because that's important to me as someone who is, the other side of 50 now. Of course, my team is not the same demographic. They have different values. And actually what they wanted was more leave or more opportunity to accrue time off in lieu. So the one size fits all really doesn't work. And so you've got to be involving and including your employees to find out what it is that works for them, and being as flexible as you possibly can within the confines of a budget, obviously, in terms of what you choose to put out there. So the other thing I say is something here about communication. And if it's not clearly communicated what your EVP is in recruitment and onboarding and internal messaging, then people aren't necessarily likely to understand what it is that the company does that makes it unique. And what I've seen time and time again is there are lots of platforms that deliver perks for employees, which sounds great because then people can tailor their experience and get the benefits that they might want. But actually, quite often what I see is they've become wallpaper, and employers are spending a lot of money and people aren't tapping into that because they've forgotten or it's inconvenient. So you can spend a lot of money as an employer on that kind of perk platform, which in my opinion just becomes wallpaper and is forgotten about very quickly. So you're not getting a return on that investment.
Yeah. And I think, do you think an issue here, main issue is not communicating enough, isn't it? Because I think like everywhere, on your first day or first week, you get told, oh, these are your benefits. This is where you can go and check things that you can use. And then you just get into the mode of working and you just forget and you just leave it to the side. And it's always like, oh, I'll check it later. I'll check it later. And then it just never happens and you might be missing out. But it's that communication and maybe continuous communication as well,
exactly.
isn't
it? Drip, 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 drip. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's so many things to think about that can be offered on different levels. And I guess in that sense, if organizations feel that they need support with that, they might consider coming to you and consulting with you. Us as an organization, obviously a recruitment agency, we do a lot of offerings apart from, or like beyond, as we say, recruitment. So one of them is our conversation today that hopefully will be helpful to someone, and they will think whether EVP is something that they're okay with and they're good at with their organization, or they might not. So, as an add-on or offering that we have as well, anybody who's listening, they could go on our website and download an EVP guide that we've created last year that could help. Like a tick box check whether they've got that employer value proposition in place, or there are maybe bits that are missing. So it is talking about key components that we've discussed today, maybe some additional ones, and then how to craft your brand strategy, how to communicate that, which is what we've discussed, and just talking about evaluating and refining as well. So if anybody is interested, then they can check it out on our website as well, and it's free to download and have a look at. So Liz, going back to your experience and the organizations you work with, it would be really interesting to hear any great examples of companies where they've actually successfully implemented and leveraged their EVP.
I can give you a couple of really good examples. I can't say that we've worked with both of these organizations, but I can tell you that I hold them in high esteem. So one of those is Wagada Digital. They're based in
Right,
St
I've heard of
Albans,
them. Yeah.
digital marketing agency. So they know about marketing and they know about brand generally, and that's
Yeah.
translated really well. So if you look at their website and their socials, you get a real sense of what it's like to work here. Obviously, they're open about their pay and benefits, but the personality of the organisation comes across, and I think that's crucial to attracting the kind of people that they want to work with. Similarly, Lussman's, so restaurant chain. Again, you can look on their website and get a real flavour for what it's like to work there. They've got sort of profile of an employee or two, really transparent about the full offer. So those are brilliant examples. But can I give the flip side? On the flip side of that,
yes, always good to know.
Yeah, well, exactly what not to do. So companies like Amazon, if you go and look at the recruitment part of their website, it's a bit soulless. It's a bit like they're trying to attract machines. There's very little personality there, possibly due to the sheer scale of the organisation. But for me, that's not nearly as appealing as an organisation where I can see that those people look friendly and it looks a bit fun from time to time. That for me is far more appealing as part of the EVP than just the vacancies that apply.
It's I guess it's showing your culture and showing how it's different from other organizations, because yes, it is salary, yes, it is, the job you're going to be doing, but also a big part of it is the culture of the organization. If you don't fit in, if you get a job and you're happy with the salary and with the job itself, but you're not happy because the culture is completely different and you just don't feel like you fit in, no matter what what they do for you, you are not going to stay there long, because it's just the wrong place to be, unfortunately. And if you're not showing your culture to the outside audience, you can face issues like that, isn't it, with people actually coming in, but then realizing that it's not the right place for them to be. And unfortunately, I always try to, like, as a recruiter, I speak to the candidates. I try to understand not just like what experience they can bring, but also how does the ideal, organization, what it has to offer, what does the team look like, how do you like working, and just understanding them from that side, and doing the same with the organization I'm recruiting for, just to understand what the culture is, and trying and finding the right fit, because at the end result for me, and the best result, is not just to get an offer, it's also like for the person to stay in the job and enjoy and grow within the organization. But unfortunately, there are cases where a person is realizing that it was actually not something that they thought it would be, and it's not about the job, it's more about the people they work with, the culture, the values of the organization, that don't tend to fit, unfortunately, which is a shame. But yes, like you've said, it's definitely something that's important. You don't want to be just a number, like in Amazon case, isn't it? Because you just feel like, oh, I'm just a number doing my job day in, day out, but then where is that piece of the cultural piece or sense of belonging? Might not be there. No, absolutely. So I guess in terms of building your authentic EVP, and maybe not just marketing a message, how would you say, or how businesses can ensure that they're actually not just showing it on the website, but how are they actually ensuring that it's authentic and it's there? Any tips on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I think we froze
I
there
think
for a
you
moment.
froze a little bit. No worries.
So you asked about how we can make sure it's authentic, it's not just a marketing
do you have any tips? Do you have any tips on that?
For sure. Again, it's just about getting that input, talking to people about what they would like to see as part of that EVP, part of that employee experience. You can get feedback if you're I don't know, you might do pulse surveys or an engagement survey. You can do exit interviews too, right? In fact, you can even do onboarding interviews. So you've just joined us. How did you find the recruitment process? What was it that attracted you to come and work for us, right? All of those things, and then obviously taking out the key themes and doing something with that information to make sure you really are keeping it relevant for people. Training managers is part of that, because they are usually responsible for some of the communication about whatever those benefits might be. And yeah, just making sure to incorporate those key messages at relevant, timely, frequent sort of touch points throughout the employee's life cycle, to make sure it's not forgotten about and those benefits are accessed, so you are getting the best return on your investment possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely. So, and I think we've discussed a few bits around that, but maybe just to sort of summarize in terms of, EVP evolving and changing, through the times. How do you think, EVP in the last few years responded to, the EVP offering responded to the changes in employee expectations in the
Yeah,
last few
for
years?
sure. So, I mean, sort of over the last 10 years, we've had initiatives like diversity and inclusion come through. We've had well-being being a priority, and those have brought with them things like employee assistance programs, well-being days, duvet days, that kind of thing. More recently, we've had COVID, and as we have said, you're quite right, the pandemic sort of drove us towards home working and opened that up. And as I've said, now I think that's certainly for many roles almost an expectation that there will be some element of home working in a role. So there are lots of employers trying to get people to return to the office, and here we are how many years on now where it's still trouble and people aren't coming in as much, mostly because the employer hasn't made it clear why we need to come back into the office, if indeed that is the case.
I would agree. I think if that was communicated in the right way and explained, then it would make more sense, wouldn't it? Because I think doctors are not questioning why they have to be in the office every day, or the retail people in the shops, they don't need to question why they have to be in the office. But some professions might not have to be, and it's just understanding why and when.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah,
and then we've got the advent of
yeah.
more accessible technology like AI.
Yes.
So what are we doing about that? How can we sort of harness that as part of our EVP? Do we give everybody a really expensive license to use Microsoft Copilot or whatever the other alternatives are? Do we train them up? Do we embrace AI so that we remove lots of repetitive parts of the job, so jobs are more interesting? I think there's lots of sort of mileage in exploring that as one example.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, I was just
going
to move on to legislation, which is perhaps a little bit more dull, but there's lots of statutory rights coming in, right?
Yes, it does.
Neonatal leave and pay coming in next month in April. Fertility on the cards, fertility time off, right to switch
lots of changes.
There's lots of the government is driving us towards lots of changes as well.
Yeah, I think you're slowly moving myself to another question and answering it as well. And it was about different EVP offering to different generations in the workforce, and all everything that you've just mentioned above, including AI or the maternity, paternity leaves, fertility, and things like that. I guess it depends where you are at with your life, which stage. Different offering is important to different people at their life stage, isn't it?
I think that's exactly right. So obviously the statutory stuff is there and you get that regardless. But of course, neonatal leave is probably less relevant to someone like myself. Whereas there are lots of other different things that might be more appropriate to other demographics, for example.
Absolutely.
And I think possibly hybrid. Can we touch on hybrid working again? Apologies for bringing it up and up and up, but I think it's very relevant. Again, if you're just starting your career, I would suggest that possibly being in an office might be more attractive to you, so that you can create those new relationships, make friends, particularly your first job or two, really get under the skin of what it means to work and that particular organization. But yes, different needs to different demographics. I would love more time off. I would love more pensions contributions, but that's not for everybody.
No, not for everybody. And some people might be more interested in hybrid working, but then I think it's also communicating, again, going back to the communication as to, like, less experienced employees who are starting their career, let's say, they might think, oh, everyone is doing hybrid working, why would I go? And it's just communicating it in the right way, not just saying,
Yeah,
oh, I would expect you to be 5 days in the office, but actually why. But you will gain more from that because you will meet the people, understand the culture, ways of working. It's going to be easier for you. And then after some time, after passing probation, a few months in, there will be that flexibility. And I think if this is explained, if it's explained in that way, it's more acceptable to a lot of those younger workers who are looking for flexibility and being able to work from home. uh, because then you think about all those parents who have children, and pick up, drop off, and things like that. You would understand them wanting to have some flexibility, isn't
for
it?
sure.
And yeah, having like a high need on that side, and more importance for them. And it's just balancing, isn't it? And
I think that's right. And you might have, and again, I don't want to generalize, but you might have a young person who's in a flat share with 6 other people. For him, working at home might not be
yeah,
as easy.
yeah,
Wi-Fi bandwidth, let alone noise and
yeah,
disruption. So we've got to be quite careful. The other thing that
absolutely.
occurs to me, excuse me, is that
Yeah,
depending on the culture of the organization, if you're not in an office, you may well be missing out on career networking
that's
opportunities,
true.
right?
Yeah.
And learning from a more experienced person. So we've really got to be careful that we are, if we have got hybrid workers or remote workers, we are taking the time to make sure those people are also included in all of those opportunities, informal training
Are
and
aware.
networking and career development.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I think on the flip side, it's also, we're talking about hybrid working, but there's a lot of people who actually would want to be in the office, like you've
Mm,
said, because of
yeah,
their circumstances at home, let's say. So it's also being able to communicate and showcase that, if you need to, you can actually, we do have an office and you can come in into the office and work from the office, and the facilities are there for you. Uh, because that gets forgotten sometimes, because everyone thinks, oh, everyone is looking for hybrid working now, but you
yeah,
do get people who
absolutely.
prefer to be in the office than being at home. um right, so yeah, so that's yeah, one of the biggest topics is hybrid working and remote working, and how this can be offered in the right way, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I guess moving on, we've discussed quite a lot in terms of EVP, what things to look at, what things to think about, how to offer it, how to then also make sure that what you're offering is actually what people are getting and they have access to it. I guess going to a final question in our discussion today. um, the final question would be, if a company could only focus on one thing to improve their EVP, from your point of view, Liz, what would you recommend it would be?
So I think I'd say don't underestimate the power of culture, what it's like to work here. That's quite possibly the one most powerful thing. And let's be clear, that's also possibly one of the hardest things to
Mm,
change,
yeah,
if employers need to do that. I think quite often, again, in my experience, people, if someone's looking to leave, an employer might try and offer them more money. And for me, anyway, money acts as kind of a temporary sticking plaster over a
absolutely.
toxic environment, but it's only
Yeah,
going to be temporary. It's not going to moat anybody. So, in terms of culture, the things that I think an employer should be focusing on are building in, creating that culture of recognizing good achievement, of developing each other, and roles, and making sure that what we're doing has some meaning for
yeah,
people. I think those are possibly, yeah, it all boils down to culture and what it's like to work here, and
yeah.
really working hard on that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you, because I think brings back to my previous comment, where you can offer everything before that, but if the culture is not there or it doesn't fit to what the person is looking for, then it's not going to be a long-term thing, isn't it? And yeah, it's definitely an important thing to offer. Any final thoughts?
Absolutely. So the first thing, it doesn't all have to cost a lot of money. Culture doesn't cost.
Yeah.
But actually, my final thought is what a pleasure it's been to talk to you today. Thank you.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. Same here, Liz. Always pleasure talking to you and discussing, really important topics that hopefully can, bring some value to the organizations. As mentioned before, if anybody has any comments or any questions, they can either pop them in the comments box or DM directly to Liz or myself, and we'll be happy to pick it up. But yeah, really, really great chat with you today, Liz. Thank you again. Thank you for joining. And yeah, look forward to arranging something else again soon.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.